Going live already. Yeah. Oh boy. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's been a month already. Can't even believe it. Can't even believe it. We've got some good reptile questions planned. My nice morning coffee. Delicious, piping hot. Burn my insides. Oof. What a live stream we've got planned. Good morning. Let's get all my questions loaded up. What do you think, Archie? You ready for today? You're just gonna kind of sleep. That's fine. That's all you ever do. Man, oh man, 9 a.m. That's good. That is good. Oh. Everyone knows the routine. We give it 5 minutes. We let people join. Then we get right into the meats and veggies, the main course, the main entree. Oh. Oh. Hopefully everyone's having a good Saturday morning. Halloween's coming up in a couple days. So I don't know, everyone's probably older. We have a good amount of questions that were this month. These questions were pretty much on point, almost all related to the same thing, which will be fun to go over. Good morning. Yeah, we'll go over everything and hit all of those questions. Double Dragon Hotel, good morning. Good morning. Yes, we'll go over all of these questions that were asked this month, which, like I said, it's interesting because there's a theme. I've compiled like the top 15 or 20, but some of them kind of got merged into one, everyone. So it's a little bit of an amalgamation of questions, but they're all kind of on point. And then I'm also going to, but I'll start with an update. We've got a couple minutes before we get in, so everyone can just come in. I love that picture on your wall. That is a blanket, but yes, it is pretty cool. Made, I saw the picture, I saw the fan art. The lady used this, and I asked her if I could get it printed on a blanket, and she said yes, and voila, it got made. Marco April, happy to see you're doing well. Thank you. You too. I want you to know your videos helped me through some rough times. So thank you for sharing. Good morning and hope. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I only make the videos for the fans. I don't make them for the money. I don't make them for me because they take a lot of time and they annoy my reptiles half the time. As if they're not annoyed with me enough. So I'm glad that you're doing better. We'll start here in just 1 minute. And like I said, it's kind of, we got a lot of good questions you guys are going to like, especially with the seasons changing here in the US. So if you're watching there, this will affect you, but this could also affect you wherever you are around the world. So don't worry about that. All right, so we'll roll right into it now. First thing that's off topic, though, from today's live stream are how are the cloned baby ball pythons doing? Good question. Glad you guys, I've been getting so many direct messages on Instagram. People on Discord ask me. People on video comments ask me. It's all over the place. How are the clones doing? The baby ball python clones are doing good. I fed them again yesterday, so this is the third feeding, still on pinky mice. One of them actually strikes and will eat the pinky mouse on her own. The other one will strike but not start to eat it, and I still need to assist feed. If you didn't see the video, you can watch the video on how I assist feed, but basically put the pinky mouse in the ball python's mouth and slowly assist it down until it's kind of past the point of no return where the ball python has to take it from there. Now that is a normal process that can happen to a lot of baby ball pythons. You got to kind of help them out. People will be like, well, what would they do in the wild? In the wild, they might not understand for so long, and they get on the brink of starvation that they're just so hungry that then instinct kicks in and they get it. And some actually never figure out how to eat, and they find dead babies in the wild and they cut them open and nothing has ever entered their digestive tract. They just never figured out how to eat. It's just something that happens. So obviously we don't want that to happen as pets. So we assist with it. That's why we do that. So I have also seen pee in the tanks as well, like the liquid patches of, round liquid puddles and corners of the substrate, as well as little batches of urate. That's important for step one, but I've not seen any waste yet. So we're just trying to make sure everything is digested. 2 different tracks. So hopefully it is. And that's typically the signs that we see. So I want to make sure we see them pooping, and we want to get them to a natural shed from eating. Good. All right. Now then, so that's the update on the baby ball pythons. Instagram, I've been posting some pictures, and Patreon people have seen some pictures on Discord of them. They're lively. We're going to put a couple YouTube shorts up about them, so just keep a lookout. It's really cool content. So far, though, so good. Fingers are crossed. We're not past what people will say the point of no return. Typically, the point of no return is the eating on their own is not a big deal. That can go a long time. Seeing actual waste, which we're seeing 50%, and also that doesn't mean they haven't pooped yet. I haven't been able to locate it. So they're eating on small pinky mice, and because they're growing, they're processing a lot of that. So there's not a lot of waste. Their body is taking in a lot of that. So there's a chance that they've done that, and I just haven't been able to locate it. But so locating pee, urine, and fecal matter is one, and then shedding. So if we can get to a shed from eating and we've located the 2 waste products, you're typically past the point of no return there. Really important. Super wish this was later in the evening. I request you to say out loud my come on, man. I have no problem saying hi to people and saying hi to people in videos. So you can always let me know. So that's the update on the cloned ball pythons. Fingers crossed. They're still weak. They're very small. Hard for them to eat because their necks are so paper thin because they're clones. They don't have all the genes. That's okay. Just a long process, but that's not a big deal. Since when don't I have a long process with a reptile? Which we have a little surprise about that too. Okay, so now let's get on topic so we can start moving, since we've already burned 9 minutes here of today's theme. And remember, guys, I release typically 3 to 4 videos. It depends on how many weeks in the month. And then I compile the top asked questions, the most common questions from that month, and I hit them up in the live stream at the end, the last Saturday in the month, as well as any big updates I need to give you guys. All right. So what's going on? Well, I made a video on brumation, like I do every year, to go over more things that we've learned as a reptile community, more things that I've personally observed, things that people in Discord and my Patreon have observed as we talk about our brumation experiences every year, and they're not always the same. And then, of course, the video I put out also leads to a ton of questions. And then there's also a ton of, shocker, not really, Reddit and Facebook posts about brumation that are 100% wrong, like they are every year. It's unfortunate, I know. Just got an albino red-eared slider. If it's in the tank by itself, it should be fine. Sometimes they can get bullied because of the color. They're big old targets, but not always. So otherwise, they are fine, just like a normal red-eared slider. They live just as long lives as pets. Not a big deal. And red-eared slider are great turtles. All right. So the theme, though, that I was getting asked a ton was, especially from a lot of first-time reptile owners, reptiles and winter. And I've talked about this a little bit on and off and in some other videos, and some categories lead into it, like free roaming, etc. But people do ask, reptiles, winter, how do I handle it? What do I do? So in the US, we're going in, right? Fall is rocketing by. Here in Michigan, overnight, we're hitting the high 30s. We haven't hit freezing yet, but we're in the high 30s. So we're getting really close. And during the day, it's in the mid 50s. So it's cold. It's cold. Let's ignore Sari's question right there. It's cold. And what do you do? So let's keep in mind that these guys are pets. Typically, they're indoors, although some people do keep them outdoors, but indoors. But still, indoor in Michigan, I'm going to use me, but this will relate to you. So during the summer and the hotter months, if I have the windows open or the air conditioning going, my internal temperature in the house on the thermostat never reaches over 80 degrees, right? There's our cutoff. So we have things to control that. And during the winter, I have a whole home furnace, natural gas, but my cut on point for the furnace is typically 68 or 70 degrees. Okay. So drastically colder. The home will be colder inside no matter what. Now, the reptiles obviously are in their enclosures that have heat. Most of them, not all, because my tarantula is just on room heat, which those temperatures are fine, and I'll get into why. And then snakes, none of my snakes have active heating equipment for their enclosures. They just have an under tank heat mat on the basking spot. Again, I'll get into why and how that works. But those are the climate controls that I have set up for my entire home, which happens, the reptiles happen to be in my home. Fine. Then the reptile room themselves have all the reptile tanks, which are naturally putting off heat during the day and a little bit less at night. So the reptile rooms themselves are still slightly cooler in the winter than they are in the summer because of the less of the home heat, but it's still warmer. So that is why I can have things like snakes that don't have active big heaters to keep their ambient temperatures correct, and just that basking spot is fine. Still, because the house is not supplementing the ambient temperature of the air of the reptile room, a couple things can happen. And I have to adjust heaters because most of my heaters are on dimmers. Most of my air heaters in reptile tanks are either radiant heat panels or ceramic heat emitters, or under tank heaters, which will heat a little bit of the air, but not as much. Or heat mats. Again, heat mats and under tank heaters, very little bleeds off. They're very efficient heaters with very little bleeding off, but there's still a little bit of bleed off to heat the air in the enclosure. Okay, now, so because my home is cooler though, I will go and monitor the temperatures in the tanks. And a lot of times on the dimmers, I will, if it's being dimmed, increase the dimmer 10 to 15%. It's not huge. It doesn't have to be huge, because when you're increasing 10 to 15% on 5 tanks, 10 tanks, etc., that's a lot of heat that you'll pump in. And I don't use light sources for heat because there's a lot of waste. I use non-light emitting heat sources. Now, there's other tanks, like for my big boas, that boas tend to like heat from above, not from the belly. So they have radiant heat panels that are hooked up to thermostats. I don't have to mess with those. The thermostat, little in their tank, will turn it on when it needs to turn on and turn it off. Same thing with my big monitors. Radiant heat panels, thermostat, there's a probe in there, turns it on and off when needed. So I don't have to do a thing there. But for smaller tank creatures, bearded dragons, etc., I'll have to mess with that. It's such a quick adjustment, no big deal. And then also in the reptile rooms, the vents, not the cold air return, but the actual exhaust vents for the heat and the AC, I open up or close the louvers on those to control how much is in there. Because another side effect can happen in the winter, especially depending on how you heat your home. So natural gas, probably the most efficient heat source that you can get, 99.9% efficient now, I believe the furnaces are. That's what I have. And those are great, except that it's already dry. The air is already drier in the winter, and your natural gas heat will also dry the air even more inside your home. Now, there's ways to combat that. For instance, on my furnace, I have a whole home humidifier. I set the percentage, and I open up the louver to allow the air to come through the whole home humidifier. You close that in the summer, obviously. And it's basically just a metal mesh filter that has water trickling down it. So the hot air goes across the water, it evaporates, and humidified air comes out of your vents. Keeps it less hot. Also, my dehumidifiers that I have, I don't shut them off because you still want humidity, but I increase the kick on. So in the basement, my dehumidifier in the summer is 40%. In the winter, it's 50%. Cool. Now, there's other things you can do if you have problems with humidity. I don't pass those points, though, so I'm fine. Hello, Kusi Gaming. Great. So that's fine. So their care in their enclosure, all set, super easy, some fine-tune adjustments, and most people get that because they're in a climate-controlled tank. But here comes the change. As you can see, Archimedes is out on my chest now. So what changes, and I'm going to look up, I'm going to open up my thermostat app. How do you have to change when you're letting a reptile out? So right now in my home, it's 72 degrees. Not cold yet, but we're not in the dead of winter yet. It's not in the negatives Fahrenheit outside. 72, still cooler than in the summer, right? In the summer, it might be 77, 78, 79. So that's still a big drop down. What starts happening when you start taking your reptiles out in the winter, and can you even in your home? Now, some people would say, well, I'll just crank up the furnace when I let the reptiles out. Sure, possible. I'll crank up the radiators, the hot water boiler, whatever, your baseboard heating, however you heat, you'll turn up the fireplace, your wood stove. It's fine. Yeah, that's a possibility, but you don't need to do that because your reptile does have a resting body temperature. And then if they're active when they're out, they're still going to heat up. And if they're on you or something warm, they're still going to heat up. Like the spot where she's sitting on me, it's getting quite warm, actually. She hasn't moved. That I'm 98 degrees. That area can't vent. That's going to happen. But they will cool down faster. So if you're out and interacting with your reptile, as long as you're not at freezing, it's not going to be a big deal. The reptiles have to be out in these cold temperatures, very cold temperatures, for quite extended periods of time to start getting ill. But there's also things you can do for that. So she's not out in the reptile room. Now, if I wanted to let her out in the reptile room is naturally warmer, and the reptile room would get really hot if I closed the door. But so if I wanted to take her out and keep her in that environment, or take any reptile, that will naturally be warmer. But what if I want to take her out like she is now in my family room? Okay, so in the family room, there's no heat from the reptile rooms leaching over there. They're on the far end of the house. It's okay, because there's things that you could do here. You could take out a heating pad. Let's say my reptile likes to be on the desk when I'm on my computer. You know how easy that is? I put the heating pad on the desk, I turn it on, I let it warm up, I check the temp, and then I take my reptile out and poof, reptile's on the heat mat. Simple, human heating pad. Simple, the reptile stays warm the entire time and we can still hang out. The reptile may even get too warm and go off, but it has a spot outside of the tank it can go to. A lot of people will use like the Zoomed or the Cane heat mats inside, or a heated dog bed that's in the family room. So my big reptile is out, or small reptile roaming, and if it's getting cold, it has an area that it knows is there and it can heat up. Well, how does it know it's there if you've never done that? You take the reptile out, you let the reptile roam. Maybe it'll find it, maybe it won't. The reptile's going to start to cool down. You will pick up the reptile and boop, plop it right down on the heated area. It will then know, hey, this area is warm. Get off, go back on its own. They're so smart like that. If it's a reptile like a ball python that can see in the infrared, so that can actually see the heat being generated, they'll go there. Now, you have to watch out for when, just like in the summer, when your heat would kick on if you have registers on the floor, things like that, because your reptile may see the heat. Excuse me, your reptile may even be laying on that. If you pump that heat on, it can be a lot of heat that your reptile is blocking. That's not good. That metal can get hot, things like that. So just know where your reptile is. That's all. But yes, you can have them out. You can have them roam. You can control the humidity inside. No big deal. I'm new to this channel and I got your live recommended. I usually watch Snake Discovery and your vids are good too. Cool. Yeah, Snake Discovery is a good reptile channel as well. Honestly, I think, let me take a sip here. I think 99% of the reptile channels on YouTube are good. You just need to know what that channel's goal is, whether it's accurate information, whether it's comedy, whether it's cute videos, whether they're trying to promote or sell something. And you won't get that from me. I don't breed any of my animals. So if I come here, I'm not going to be like, oh, guess what? I breed ball pythons. And then in every video, continue to tell you how ball pythons are the best snake and you should own one. You're not going to get that from me. So you're just going to be getting advice and then you can do whatever you want with it. But I think everyone is good. They're just all in these different categories, and just know what category you're watching. And then there are some that are just legitimately bad. Fake top 10 videos, bad information videos, things like that. But most are good. I'm more of the real information, show common issues, how to deal with them, in documenting things. Definitely more educational, although I put the fun videos up sometimes. And sometimes with reptiles, even when doing an information video, it's going to be fun, right? I've had reptiles just crap on me when they're like this in the middle of an informational video. What can you do but laugh? That's it. And always in the live stream, feel free to ask questions. You can type them in. No big deal. So anyways, back on track. That is easy ways to still spend time outside of their enclosure with your reptile in your home when your home's getting cooler. It happens every year where people are not taking their reptiles out, even inside, when it's winter time, because they're so deadly afraid that they're outside in a slightly cooler air temperature for a half hour, an hour, that the reptile's dying. And that's a shame because you don't get to spend that time, right? You're like, okay, see you next year. We don't want that. Now, Archie has not started brumation yet, so she's out here. Other people have been in brumation for a couple months. Other people have just entered brumation, and other people are ending brumation. So that's the only time you won't see me taking out a diapause. But any type of that hibernating behavior, yes, I won't take out that ball python if it's brumating. I won't take out the bearded dragon. I won't take out the monitor lizard. We'll go through that. Marty the Beardy is an awful channel. That's true. Marty the Beardy's channel may not even be live anymore because there's been no posts at all. No update videos, nothing. Oh, gosh. So let's go back to the questions here. Oh, another one people ask, should we adjust the lighting schedules in the tank? Okay, so you guys know when my reptiles are brumating and they're going in their caves and they're not coming out for X amount of months, I shut the UVB lights off. Those are my only light sources because it's just wasting the phosphors. The phosphors are burning. That's what gives off the UVB ray, right? They have a finite life, and you're just burning phosphors for nothing. Your reptile's not absorbing it because they're in the cave or under a platform. So you're just going there. But what about for a day and night cycle? I don't adjust the lighting at all. I leave my lightings the same year round, and I'll explain why. And people who do birds typically do this different. And maybe if we did this with reptiles, I don't know how it would affect its health. But the main thing is with my reptiles and most people's reptiles, they're not in a 100% light controlled room. So what does it matter? Like right now, the sunlight is coming in from outside. It's bright outside. In a while, we'll get out of daylight savings time, so it'll get bright even an hour sooner. It will get dark an hour later. And don't get me wrong, in the beginning of the hobby, I cut my light hours by 2 hours and I adjust. And I do this. I do adjust my timers for daylight savings time because that's when I'm up and awake. But also, your room light comes in, it bleeds into the reptiles. So they already know the light's there. Whether their light's on or the light's on from something else, the window, the hallway, just light from outside, that's coming in. So they know there's light there. They also hear us. We're up, we're awake, maybe we've got a family, we're moving around. Doesn't work. I saw no positive effects from trimming and extending light hours. For instance, in the summer, I would have my lights, in the beginning, my lights went till 10 p.m. because I'm like, I'm going to be awake and active. And what happened every night? 7:30, 8 o'clock. Reptile in the cave, asleep. Didn't matter that the UVB lights were on. And I'm sure you guys have seen it as well. When the reptile wants to go to bed or take a nap or do whatever it wants to do, it doesn't care that its light source is on. Also, my reptiles wake up. I'll hear them wake up and move around in their tank. When my lights are off in the home is dark and their lights are off. Now, what people do with birds that control lighting is very different. A lot of times people have big birds have a cover for their little cage the bird is in, and that slips over, keeping it pitch dark. And a lot of people who keep birds also have their tanks in a designated like bedroom that they close the door to, and that room is 100% lighting controlled. I don't know if we did that with reptiles, if we would see the same effect or a better effect. All I know now, the light schedule of my UVB has nothing to do with when my reptile wakes up and nothing to do when my reptile goes to sleep. Doesn't matter. And nor is the time of the year. It's not like they get up later now. It's not like they go to bed earlier in the winter or same thing in the summer. They might wake up super early today. They might stay up super late. They might go to bed early. I have no idea. Sometimes they take 10 naps during the day. Sometimes they take no naps. I have yet, if anyone in here has a rhyme or reason why what happens, I would love to know. So I don't change the lighting at all. I have found zero benefit, zero. And if anything, I cut my light hours back a little bit in general, only because keeping them on for 12 hours, my reptile was never out for 12 hours. So I was just burning the phosphors. I looked at my reptiles. I see when they're active. I see when they become not active. I adjusted the light schedules. They still get 8+ hours of UVB, and it makes my UVB lights last longer. All right. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Wow. This, and I wish I had a better answer for this. Ton of questions about bearded dragons and brumations. How do I tell that they're going to start brumating? What do I do about brumation? You really got to watch my detailed videos on that. But to be honest, it's very difficult to know because they could just be taking a nap for 2 days. Basically, just know that your bearded dragon is healthy, and if it goes in a cave or under a dark spot and it stays there for a week plus, it's either sick and dying or it's brumating. Welcome to the life of bearded dragon keeping. Everything they do is either they're sick or dying or they're perfectly healthy. My bearded dragon took 10 naps today. That's perfectly healthy. It's dying because it did that. My bearded dragon didn't eat today. That's perfectly healthy, or it's dying. My bearded dragon hasn't pooped in 2 or 3 weeks. That's fine. A lot of them do that. It's dying. My bearded dragon's pooping every single day. Fine, healthy, or it's dying. Bearded dragons are the mystery of the reptiles. Literally, everything they do could either mean that they're healthy or they're dying. So they're a mess. They're great lizards, but medically, they're so confusing, you wish they could talk. My bearded dragon is laying eggs. That's perfectly healthy, or it's dying. My female bearded dragon has never laid eggs. That's perfectly healthy, or it's dying. My bearded dragon loves to drink water. Perfectly healthy. That means it's dying. It just likes water. It stays hydrated. It's getting dehydrated, or it's having a problem filtering its blood. Its kidneys are going bad, so it's drinking a lot of water to compensate. How do you know? Yeah, you can do blood tests, MRIs, x-rays, pump that thing in and out of the hospital every month, but now you're causing stress. Elevated white blood cell count. Perfectly healthy. It was just a little stressed because I put it in the car and the vet manhandled it and molested it, flipped it upside down, finger up the butt, right? So it's normal. Or it's dying because the elevated white blood cells are so high, because it has cancer, or it has this has loaded with parasites over the healthy amount of parasites. Therefore, its body is trying to fight them, but it can't. So see how it could have that immune system response for, right? Because reptiles, especially bearded dragons, when they are getting mad, their body kicks off an immune system response. So you'll have elevated white blood cell count. Even though nothing is wrong, it's not sick at all, it's just pissed off. Or it's very ill and its body's trying to fight something. What a mess. So the best thing you can do is know your dragon, know how it behaves, and monitor it. That's all. Take a peek at it. Make sure it's breathing. Make sure it was a healthy weight before brumation started. You know? All right. And so a lot of the questions, okay, here we go more, like how will my turtles react and blah, blah, blah. If they're inside, guys, again, assuming your home does not go into the negatives, assuming you don't have a winter simulator in your house, they're going to act the exact same. Don't worry about that. Can you use space heaters? Yeah, you can definitely use supplement heaters. If you're going to use a space heater, I actually find more efficient like a mineral oil radiant heater rather than like a ceramic heater with a fan that's blowing. And those like mineral oil ones, they look just like a radiator would, and they just get warm and then the heat radiates off of it. A little bit more energy efficient, and they're also a little bit easier to control with a thermostat. A lot of them will have a thermostat right on them. They're not super high powered. They don't draw a lot of amps. They're way more efficient. The old style space heater was just like a giant ceramic heat emitter with a fan. People were like, oh, those always lit the house on fire. Sometimes, because a lot of the times people have bad circuit breakers, but those things draw high amps. A lot of homes, 15 amp wiring. And a lot of space heaters, like a lot of high powered vacuums, are 12 or 13 amps on the draw. And so that's technically within spec, but man, it's very close to your 15 limit. And then what happens when that's in and on, and it's on a circuit, and maybe you don't know what's on the circuit, but all right, remember, it's already nearly maxing that circuit. And now something else kicks on. Now it's at 14, 14 and a half. You can start melting stuff. That's very hot for thin wiring. If you get the efficient ones, much more safer. And with the thermostat's really good. I always tell people, though, err on the safer side. Set them to the lower, close to the lower end of the safe temperature for your reptiles, just because sometimes air's not circulating, things can get hot, even when a radiant heater turns off, because now the thermostat has satisfied. That thing's still hot, right? Like when you shut your oven off, you got to take the food out of there, it'll still be cooking. So that's still going to give off heat. So it's very easy. If you set your set point at 80, let's say that's the max, that thing gets up to 80, shuts off. Maybe it hits 81, 82 because it was climbing, but it's not going to instantly drop down. It's going to stay at that until it starts to cool down. So you set it lower. If you're set, if 80 is that, let's say the temperature is between 75 and 80, what you're shooting for air temperature, set that thing at 76. It's fine. Be on the lower end. It'll probably sit around 77, 78, right? Then it will drop, 76, 75, kick on. Then it'll shut off. You just got to remember that's how the heat works, right? It fluctuates. Even with your thermostat in your house, you got your registers all over, but typically if you have one zone control, my thermostat is in the hallway, about dead center of the home. But you know, I've got vents everywhere. There's a vent right below my feet here underneath the couch. I extended it out, boom, blows hot or cold out. Man, it gets hot over here sometimes, but the thermostat hasn't satisfied. So you need to know how your heat's being controlled. Sari makes a great point. Get your stuff and do your own fecals. Anyone who has a reptile that wants to make sure they're staying healthy, I tell people there's really three things. And they vary in cost, but they're so easy. You should have, now most people will get like one of those temperature probes, right? A little thermostat, fine. That's like natural. You should have a laser temp gun to get surface temperatures for basking spots, because just your little air probe or a little air sensor you put in there is not enough for the thing. Those are cheap, 20, 25 bucks. The other one is a solar meter. That's not cheap. It's $200 something. If you have a reptile, that UVB is important. Not super important for leopard geckos, not super important for blue-tongued skinks, not super important for savanna monitors, not super important for like leopard geckos and other things. You need to know the type of reptile you have. A lot of snakes, not important. Ball pythons in the wild, they're in a hole. They come out at night, they hide, they go back in during the day. They rarely see the sun. They're eating whole prey. They're getting calcium from the whole prey. They're digesting the bones and everything. So you need to know. So those are the first two. The third one is I tell people, get the stuff to do a fecal. You can get all of the equipment, depending on the quality of microscope you want, 80 to 150 bucks for everything. The slides, the solution, the microscope, the little poop shaker plastic things that you'll do your fecal float in. And again, it varies slightly based on the quality of the microscope. You may already have a microscope, so you may be fine. Maybe you had one as a kid. And I'll hit that. Double Dragon Hotel brings up a great point. But so with the solar meter and the fecal solution, if you're looking at a vet, most vets do not allow you to just drop off a fecal. Most of the time they require a general visit. Let's be generous here and say your general visit is 50 bucks. I'd say that's generous, but I want to put on and let's say your fecal is 40 bucks. That's 90 bucks. Now look at that right there. I think my stuff was around 95. She's got enough to do 50 fecals. Once you've done a fecal and a half, which is not possible, I would say you've broken even. But once you've done 2 fecals, you have saved money. And now you can do your fecals as often as you want. So what's important? Oh, I find they had parasites. I'm going to treat the parasites. How do you know if they've been treated? you got to send another fecal to the vet, right? Here you can fecal as much as you want, and it doesn't disturb the reptile most of the time. Sometimes if they're not pooping, yeah, you got to get a Q-tip. You got to go inside the vent and then fecal float the Q-tip. But a lot of times they just poop. Boom, boom, no keeping the poop in a bag in your fridge till 2 days later, your vet appointment. You do the fecal yourself. It's so easy. It's beyond belief. And not only that, it's so easy to read the results. If you don't understand how fecals work in the professional world, they're looked at by humans, and the human knows what, let's say, the 8 parasites look like. But even still, every vet I've always gone to that does its own fecals, next to the microscopes is a laminated thing of what the 8 parasites look like. They look at your slide, they look at the picture, they look at they're trying to find it, right? It's where's Waldo? Do I have any hookworms? No. Do I have any pinworms? No. You can print that off from online. You can buy a book. You can buy a laminated copy. You just go to Google, print it, laminate it yourself, do whatever you want. You just look at it on your computer. You can get the microscopes where you put your eyes in it, or you can get ones that have the digital screen right on them. You can get ones that you plug your phone in. You can audio video out to your computer or your TV while looking at it. Doing fecals couldn't be easier. It couldn't be the biggest save of money for the vet. On the flip side, the solar meter. That's the only way to do UVB correctly. I have never measured correctly with my solar meter with what's printed on the side of the box. Every UVB bulb, whether it's a tube, compact fluorescent, mercury vapor, LED, it will tell you this is how much in their lab in perfect conditions, and they batch test them, the average of this height, this much UVB, and then it tells you this scale. So you're like, okay, I have a bearded dragon. It needs to be in Ferguson zone 3 to 4, which is this amount of UVB, which this bulb tells me it has to be 8 inches away. The more powerful bulb you get, combined with the better reflector, and we'll get into that, will push that UVB deeper. Now you can have greater lengths away. Now, a lot of the times with these bulbs, they don't tell you what type of reflector. There's a ton of reflectors, 2 times, 1 time, 3 times multiplier. Also, they tell you, oh, replace your bulb every 6 months. That's just to get them money, because there's other things you can do. So you should be measuring your bulbs, and your bulbs, right, UVB bulbs, they have phosphors. They're burning in there. That's what's giving off the UVB and the UVA spectrum down to your reptile, right? And then your reptile is absorbing that through their skin. We do too, photosynthesis, plants grow, blah, blah, blah. UVC kills bacteria, boom, boom, boom. So those phosphors burn out. So they get weaker. That doesn't mean it's bad right away, because again, the Ferguson zone is typically a scale. So if it needs to be, let's just say your bulb needs to be outputting between 4 and 9 as the number. And where you set it up, it starts at 9. Now your bulb's 8. Your bulb's still fine. Now your bulb's 7. It's still fine. 4, 9, 6. It's still fine. Now you're at 5. You're starting to get close. Still fine, but you're starting to get close. But before you go to replace it, there's also some things you should think of. Can you lower the bulb? Now, because it's closer, your 5 becomes 7 again within safe reasons, or raise the basking spot. Now you can keep using that bulb, right? You're not going to put it 2 inches away, but maybe your bulb was 14 inches away and you've moved it to 11. Still a great distance, and you've amplified that UVB like crazy, and you haven't replaced the bulb yet. The other thing is, if you have a substrated enclosure, and even if you don't, but substrate more, there's dust accumulation, not only on the bulb, but on the reflector. If you have a tank that produces humidity, maybe you're misting or you're fogging, you're going to get water stains, calcification on the bulb and on the reflector. That is going to decrease the amount being reflected and the amount that can escape the bulb. You let the bulb cool down, you take some Windex on a paper towel, you clean the fluorescent tube, whatever type of bulb it is, and you clean the reflector. Now all of a sudden you're outputting UVB like crazy. So a lot of times people, when they replace a bulb, they assume that their old bulb was bad because even if they had a solar meter, it was outputting less UVB. When actually you're replacing a dirty bulb, which can be hard to see because the white calcification and the dust, you're replacing a dirty bulb with a cleaner bulb. And the cleaner bulb has less things to push the UVB through. So if you take out your bulbs and your reflector and you clean them down, it's going to look shiny again. You're not doing anything to rejuvenate the phosphors, but you've cleaned it, which helps that get out. Those are things you can do. Also, and again, these are batch tested. We've put in bulbs. Anyone here who's in my Discord and used a solar meter, we've put in bulbs that drastically are out of spec. And you can return bulbs for that. Too strong, too weak. We've had people buy reflectors where the panel on the reflector at the factory, human error, it's okay, is inserted upside down. So just like aluminum foil, there's a shiny side and a dull side. And if it happens to go in upside down, the shiny side, which is the 3 times reflector, is not visible. The dull side is visible. You get very little reflection, very little. You can return it, or you can just slide the panel out, flip it, and slide it back in. Perfect, easy, clean. The only way to set things up correctly is with that solar meter, though, because you might put in a new bulb and you might be like, I'm going to keep, okay, I don't want to bully anyone, but if you actually have a solar meter, let's say you buy an Arcadia, so we're talking like the best of the best, engineered and made in Germany, UVB, the best phosphors. You buy a 14% T5 high output tube. The length doesn't matter because the length is just going to increase the coverage. So you buy that tube. You put it in a 3 times reflector. So now you got 14% phosphor, a 3 times reflector. You have the massive amount of UVB output. The only way you could get more is a reflective dome with a mercury vapor bulb, 200, 250 watt maybe, but that sucker's going to put off a lot of heat and a lot of UVB. Now, but you won't have that close, and that will put out numbers like crazy. Your solar meter will register 60, 70, 80 from a foot away. You're like, whoa. But you see a lot of people make these ginormous reptile tanks because it gives the reptile more space to move, or maybe they have a big reptile. But if you don't have high basking platforms, you would be shocked how much the strongest tube light in the best reflector, how quickly the UVB fall off is in terms of penetration coming down. Maybe 14 inches. We're not even talking 2 feet. Let's be generous at 1.5 feet and say you're still getting the accurate Ferguson zone. Let's even say 2 feet. Well, what do you do if you've built this giant reptile enclosure? You see it all the time. A lot of reptile zoos have them. Giant, tall, 5, 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet tall. And the UVB is on a screen at the top, and the reptile sits at the bottom. We see it all the time. Do you think UVB is getting down there? It's not. Of course it's not. Now, tall tanks are not bad. You have to compensate. But now when you start compensating, maybe the tank doesn't look as good. You've got to build platforms. Even if you build them naturally for rocks, you've got to build a platform that's all the way near the top that your reptile will lay on, because that's how the UVB gets there correctly. When you start doing that, you start to think, why did I make such a tall tank? Great question. A lot of the channels that have these giant enclosures, and don't get me wrong, I have a 4-foot tall enclosure. I have black throats, my quince monitors in one. But then if you look at where my basking platforms are, they're elevated like 3 feet up to leave a foot distance. I have 14% Arcadia T5 high output UVB tubes and a 3 times reflector because I know how low that goes. Yeah, sorry is perfect. 5 by 2 by 2.5. The extra height, right? 17.5 inches up. Let's call it. Let's be quick and easy about it. Let's call it 1.5 feet or just over 1.75 feet. That is where, if she wouldn't have elevated that platform nearly 2 feet up from her 5 foot, enclosure, what are you getting? You're getting no UV penetration at the bottom, virtually nil, even if it's clear, let alone if you put climbing things. So actually, and I have never seen, and if you can find a video, I would love to see it, but I've never seen a video of these reptile zoos or anyone with these monster high, 5 is not even that big, 8 foot high enclosures. I've never seen them show a solar meter ever. I don't even know if they own one. They probably shouldn't, but I've never seen them use a solar meter. I've never seen them talk about a solar meter. And now look, there are ways. The guy who had Shrek, the black throat, and then Shrek died, he had something else. This guy's pretty smart. Big enclosure, walled off misting system, and he actually had mercury vapor bulbs hanging down from the ceiling with its cord, lowering them. That way the UV would be lower, a couple feet up. Now, that doesn't look nice. When you have these giant rock enclosures, it doesn't look as nice when you've got a bulb hanging down. So instead of hanging stuff down, sometimes you try to build the platforms up. But it's just interesting. You don't see that type of equipment being used. And which means it's probably not being done right. I can't figure out, because it's not like they're buying some special UVB tube that is secret that we don't know. That's like, oh, this is, instead of a 14% phosphor mixture, it's, God, how strong would that have to be? Sorry, what do you think? This is a 40% phosphor mixture. I doubt it, right? It just doesn't exist. So you need to make sure when you're doing things that look cool for you, it actually performs correctly for the animal you're putting in there. That's all. Not that big enclosures aren't cool. And I have some 8 foot by 6 foot by 6 foot. I got big enclosures. But I had to compensate. I had to build different platform heights with bridges. So yeah, they can sprawl out on the bottom, but I put the basking heat up here with the UVB over it. So when they need to warm up and they're basking for most of the day, they're up here getting heat and getting the correct UVB. When they just want to climb around and be crazy, they can be over here. And I don't see that with a lot of these giant enclosures. That's all. Okay, we're going to wrap up the stream. If anyone has any questions, it doesn't even have to be on the topics I've hit out. Any reptile related questions at all, now you can pop them in. And then typically, just so that people know, after the stream, guys, I typically get in Discord and I can talk more in depth with people who donate on Patreon. If you donated on Patreon or you ever donated in one of my GoFundMe campaigns, you get access to the Discord, which I and a lot of the people that are either commenters or people in this chat, like Double Dragon Hotel, like Failed Medic, like Sorry You're Blue, is a Patreon member. They're also in the Discord. We talk quite often. But I'll give you guys a minute if there's any questions. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. And remember, 3 to 4 videos a month, sometimes more. The YouTube Shorts. I'm going to start putting out more YouTube Shorts because sometimes I just see something cool. My reptile's doing something cool for 30 seconds to 45 seconds. Maybe they're just acting derpy. And I'm going to start capturing it more so I can put it out there for you guys. So anyways, those normal videos, 3 to 4 videos, depending on how many weeks in the month. And then the live stream at the end to kind of wrap up the, man, I get tens of thousands of comments. In the beginning, like every night I would go and I would like, oh, let me reply to like the 20 comments. It's out of control now, right? I can't. So I can have the comments put together and have them sorted into basically generalizing them, and then answer them on the live stream, which is also good because then if you know you have a pressing comment, if you can catch the live stream, we can have a back and forth conversation rather than just a one sentence answer to your question, which may lead to more questions. Yes. Lots of bad info. Lots of bad info on reptiles in general. Like we said, lots of bad info on bearded dragon brumation. Like incredibly bad. And so around noon today, something is going to happen. And there should be a YouTube short showing it. Well, also I'm getting a privacy fence built in the backyard. My neighbor's privacy trees got sick, and year after year they've been dying. I've been very generous living off my neighbor on the left has a privacy fence, but I have privacy trees there. On the right, I have privacy trees. I also love my neighbors on the right. And the neighbors in the back, I just have a chain link fence around my yard. The neighbors in the back had a great line of tall privacy trees. They cut them at the wrong time of the year a couple years ago. They got sick, and every year, one and one and one. Now we have this giant open gap. We're going to block that off. It's another expense, but really mostly for my reptiles. Those people call the city on me all the time because I only assume they're old people with nothing to do. So there's another expense for the reptiles. They kill me. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend and have a great Halloween. And look for today the YouTube short that's going to go up. That's going to show something pretty cool. All right, bye.